Oh, I know how to do
here
that.
it
I
is.
just,
Oh,
We're live now. It says live on Facebook.
hi.
fabulous.
Because I didn't know where it was going to show up on my screen, but I see it now. I see it. So it should show up here on Facebook too. Let's see. I mean, yeah, I have it now on. It's coming up on the book club, so they can see. They can see it, and then we can view the comments and stuff. So okay, so we're gonna wait like a moment or two, right, to get people to come in, and then we'll start.
Super.
Yeah,
I just,
that's usually what we do. So
Sounds
all
fabulous.
right.
yeah.
Well,
So
girls, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, me too. It should be a lot
Me
of fun.
too.
You have to ask me about the turtles. Of course, that's always with the beach, but it's the end of the season, and I've spent the last 2 nights at the nests waiting for the emergence. And I'll put pictures up tomorrow of it. But tonight,
great.
as soon as we say goodbye, I'm taking off my pretty clothes and going to get my t-shirt, my turtle team t-shirt, and run out. We're going to have a nest hatch tonight, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my goodness, how fabulous is that?
That's funny because you read about it in the books, but to actually see what it looks like, in real life, that's really neat.
I'll try and take a video and put it up for you. Tonight's going to be interesting for us because, well, I'll talk about it tonight rather than
that would be great. Yeah, I'm sure people would want to hear that. Okay, so I guess we'll get started now, right?
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, so good evening and welcome to our third Friends in Fiction official book club meeting. I'm Michelle Marcus in New York, and Drew Sue is our co-host Brenda Gardner in South Carolina.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
We are excited to be back for a new book discussion with another one of our favorite Fab Five authors, New York Times bestselling author Mary Alice Monroe, and discussing her latest book, On Ocean Boulevard. And so a little more about Mary Alice Monroe. She's the New York Times bestselling author of 23 novels, including On Ocean Boulevard, which is the 6th installment of the Beach House series. Her beloved Beach House series introduces the memorable and captivating Rutledge family and their close friends. More than 7.5 million copies of her books have been published worldwide and earned numerous accolades and awards. Nature and environment and the amazing animals that are part of it always held a special place in her heart. In fact, the coastal environment of the South is prominently featured in many of her novels. Mary Alice Monroe's years of study and support of many local environmental organizations supporting the coast and sea life illustrate her passion for the subject. In fact, she is a member, as we were just discussing before, of the island's turtle team, just like the ones featured in the Beach House series. I started with the Beach House and made quick progress in completing the series, enjoying the lives of the Rutledges, and couldn't wait to get each book in the series and learn more about these fascinating characters. So, warm welcome to Mary Alice. Thank you.
Hello. You know what I have to do later on when you're ready? I have my 2 cavaliers sitting at the door with eyes this big saying, please let me in. So when you're ready, I'll introduce you to those dogs that are always barking at Friends in Fiction.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we would love to.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
speaking
of.
Hey, company. All right, well, let me get mine.
I think that was a request.
Dogs in. Okay, here. This is Cosmo.
Oh, beautiful. Was that a
he's a Cavalier King Charles, and he's what we call a tricolor. He's my little boy. Cute. Luna. She's a big girl for a puppy, but she's Luna. And she is actually 7 months old now. She's a kisser. Some dogs like to kiss. Yeah. And she's a sweetheart, and she's my little girl. And next to, I can't show you because I can't lift him up, is my big Bernese mountain dog.
Wow.
Vega, and I don't know if you can see Vega. I'm not going to try and lift her. So those are my pals who hang out with me when I write books.
Oh, they are fabulous. And Mary Alice, I'm so sorry. Winston is saying hello to all of them.
What kind of a dog is Winston?
He's about a third Boykin Spaniel and
I love Boykins.
2/3 a number of other things.
Well, we love our Boykins in South Carolina.
Yes, we do. Wow. Yes, we do. Well, Mary Alice, I just want to say again, welcome and thank you so much for joining us. It's just truly remarkable as a reader to have the time period of these novels, these fictional characters that we identify with through joy, tragedy, and the legacy of generations. We've come to love and identify with them since, I think, 2002. Winston has too, with the Beach House.
Thank you.
But we may have some people joining us who aren't familiar with the book yet. Could you give us just a quick summary with no spoilers? We're going to do spoilers after 7:30 for anyone
Yes.
interested.
Well, the book that is the discussion is for On Ocean Boulevard. And I say this a lot, but it really is true because I have written 2 different series, and there is a difference in how the author approaches a series. When I wrote The Beach House, I actually just wrote 1 book. I knew I could make my books more meaningful. I'm on the turtle team. I've been on for 20 years. In fact, I'll tell you what's going on the beach right now after I finish this. And we really needed to let people know what was going on in the beach with the turtles. And so 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot of information out there for the public. So I decided I didn't want to write a nonfiction novel. I wanted to do it through the power of story because people care then. And I'm a novelist. That's what I do. I'm a storyteller. So I knew I had written something very different than anything I'd read before or written. And I used the knowledge that I learned from the sea turtles to create themes that were the bedrocks for the novels. So when you use a theme in a novel, it imbues everything: plot, characterization, setting, of course. Everything it's all oozing meaning. It deepens the whole story. So that's, to me, more important than just saying, okay, here's information on turtles, because no one wants to read that in a novel. They care about the people, right? That's what I care about. The other thing I did, and I do this for many novels, but not all, but when it's appropriate, I use chapter headings, and I try to have a little bit of kernel of information that is carried out in the chapter. But I love it when a reader writes to me and says, I didn't want to read anything about turtles until chapter 7. And then I started reading the chapter headings, and I'm, yay! Exactly. So anyway, The Beach House is a mother-daughter reconciliation novel. And that's what is the core of the series. And Caro is a 40-year-old woman. This theme is return, because a sea turtle returns to the beach of its birth after a long period of time. So that theme, you see how I do that. And she didn't want to be back. She's a lone swimmer. She's always taking care of herself. There are issues of abandonment in her mind because sea turtles are not nurturing. They lay eggs and leave. That's their biological model. But for humans, abandonment. So I had lots to play with. And I created a novel of one summer, the last summer, of this quintessential Southern woman's life. To me, Lovey is the woman I want to be. She's charming. She has faith. She works with the turtles. What more? She's a good mother. And yet she has this dark secret about, we don't know all about our mother's lives. And during the course of the story, you find out that Lovey was in love with a man. She fell in love when she was married to someone else. It was in Charleston, these old families, like the Rutledges, they're not arranged marriages, but they are very strictly orchestrated, from birth, about who you can go to the St. Cecilia ball with. Has to be someone that is a male lineage only. They don't care how much money you have. It's all about pedigree. And that still exists today. It does. So you have this family with all this rich backdrop and a mother-daughter reunion, and that's The Beach House. It was so successful. It was my first New York Times hit. And I was excited because people were volunteering for turtle teams. They were donating. They were getting it. And that transcends storytelling. That was my deepest wish, was that people would care about the species as they loved the story. So after a couple of years, and I wrote another one. I was one of the founders of the Sea Turtle Hospital at our aquarium, at the South Carolina Aquarium. so much cool stuff was happening. We're bringing in these big old turtles, and we had, at the time, we had no tanks. We had a big old kiddie pool from Kmart, and back when we had Kmart, right? And we had duct tape and boxes, and everyone was running around trying to make it work. Now we have a state of the art. 18 years later, a sea turtle hospital. But back then, it was hands-on. And the theme was about the resilience of sea turtles to parallel with the resilience of women. So I said, okay, I'm going to tell this story through the Rutledges again, because it's all set up. And that book was swimming lessons. And then after that, I remember my daughter this is now 2008. So I wrote it 2002, 2006, 2008, maybe 8. I didn't write them every year. It was just when I had something to say. My daughter decided to finally read my book. Don't you love your children? And so the beach house, she finally read it. And she said, Mama, I don't understand why that Lovey just didn't leave her husband, because her husband was abusive. And I thought, oh, little girl. And I realized there's a generation of women, and women who are not from the South, who didn't realize that in 1970s, a woman from south of Broad Charleston did not leave her husband. If she did, she was a pariah. There was no support. There were no homes for battered women back then. Their friends would have ignored them. The children would have gone to the husband. So I showed in this great, I think it was the best love story I ever wrote. It was Beach House Memories, the love story of these two wonderful, ethical, loving people who couldn't be together in that time because they were married to other people. So I wrote the Beach House Memories, and from that, I just kept going. Every time I had something important to say about pelicans or shorebirds or dolphins or anything, I went back to the series. And what I found out, I have another series, and I know people love it. It's the Low Country series. But there's something about the Beach House series. It's like Jan, my dogs are talking to your dogs. There's something about like the Jan Carone series, the Mitford. When you have fans that really love the characters, that's a blessing as a writer. You don't take that for granted. It's my honor. I hold that, I cherish that. So I'm not going to be like J.K. Rowling and say, that's it, no more. Because I was really upset that she won't write any more Harry Potter books. Nobody else can, right?
Yeah.
So I decided that I will continue writing when I have something to say. So that is the series. Now, because each book is a standalone, by the time you get to On Ocean Boulevard, all the characters have aged. So Kara was 40 in the Beach House. All the characters, now she's 56 in this book. And I'm writing another, she'll be 57. So she's getting older. She's becoming the matriarch now of this new family. But that book is a beginning, a middle, and an end. So if you just read that book, I set it up so that you didn't have to read all of them. You just have to read this one book, and I hope you enjoy it. But I will say it's really true that a lot of people read it, then go back. But those who have read it all the way through, it's like anything else. You love the series, you know all the secrets that I may not have put into the new book. It's like knowing a family. You meet someone at a party, you really like them. How nice to meet you. But if you've known the family for 20 years, you know this person. You know where he's from, as we say, who his people are. So that's On Ocean Boulevard. And people can start with that book because I'm really moving now into the next generation. So in the one I'm writing now, it's about this summer, but it really is bringing in the children who are now in their 20s, mid-20s. And everyone's getting older, and it's going to be fun to watch this next generation grow.
Oh, Brenda, you're still on mute. You have your sound off.
Did you like my motions? That's what's so fascinating about this book is just sort of the intertwining of generations and the carrying on. It's just beautiful. So
thank you. And it's beautiful to write, Brenda. When I wrote the last scene of On Ocean Boulevard, and no spoilers, but it was, see, I grew up with this woman. When I wrote the Beach House, she was 40 and I was 40, and we're just sort of, in the 40s, but we knew each other. But now I'm of an age where I'm watching the next generation come up, and I'm seeing them take over. And there's a wisdom that we get, hard earned, I might add. And so she realizes it's not just what's good for me now, it's how can I help Linnea? How can I help these kids get a start? I've had some pretty good chances. I've had a pretty good ride. And she's still enjoying life. She just got married. But she sees now there's another way to love that is not just, it's helping. And I think with COVID, that's something we've all experienced a lot this year. So when I wrote that scene last year, COVID hadn't happened. But I felt I was awash in joy because I could identify with where she is in that point in her life. I have grandchildren now. That wasn't true when I started the Beach House series. And now that's why I'm really excited about the one I'm writing now and trying to finish on time. And we have a cover reveal coming up very soon, by the way.
Oh, yay.
I love those cover reveals.
Aren't they fun? I just enjoy. We didn't know that we'd have such fun with our reveals. So I just tweaked the font. A lot of times an author doesn't get much say, but I've been with my publisher long enough that I'm very fussy about my cover. And so I actually have found the photographs used or pictures quite often. And I found this one. So, because they sent me about 5 and I went, did anyone read the book?
Oh, that's
I'm just
funny.
asking, just kind of asking. And you don't want to look like anyone else. You want to have your own look. So we kind of went for a different look, and I liked it. It's going to be available. I think I'll show it. Christy's coming up this week, I think, on Wednesday with her new cover reveal.
Oh, that's funny, all these.
And we have so much fun with those, so we're very much looking forward to it.
Oh, good. I'll have to do a giveaway or something for you guys to do.
Oh, that would be fabulous.
Okay, I'll do a giveaway with you.
Wonderful. Well, we'll get a few questions in, but I will tell you your dogs are a big hit in the in the comments, as is your advocacy work for the turtles and the information.
Oh, the turtles.
Yeah.
But so we're gonna just for the book club members who are listening in and watching, we're gonna be taking some questions live today. So be sure to type any questions in the chat box. Oh, the lovely dog again. But we did take some questions in advance, and there's a great one to kick things off, especially with that wonderful introduction, Mary Alice. This one is from Anita Helpa, and she says, I've loved the strong matriarchs in the Beach House and Low Country series. Were they modeled on a strong woman in your life? And who are some of the women who have influenced you the most, and how?
Wow. What's interesting about this story is I didn't realize until I'd finished the Beach House that it was a love letter to my mother. Mm-hmm. And she passed away. She had cancer. She had the cough, like Lovey did. So I knew that sound so well. And she did kind of, that scene when Brett picks her up and carries her, I mean, that's emotional for me because it was not her love story, with the Russell Bennett. That's always fiction. I don't like to put real lives in the story, but she modeled that character for me. And the women in who are her best friends, like Emmy and all that, and Lovey herself, though, her work with sea turtles, I was so fortunate back in the late 90s to interview some of what we call the original turtle ladies. Those were not sponsored by the DNR. That's the Department of Natural Resources. They just did what they could. And I used to joke and tease Pat Conroy all the time because when he wrote beach music, He did have turtles in it, but that was not a good turtle lady. That mother was doing things wrong. And the woman that he vilified as the DNR person who had a gun, which DNR people never have guns, that's Sally Murphy, who's my dear friend now, who used to head up the turtle program. And those turtle ladies were just, some of them, sometimes they did things that were not, they were well-intentioned, but they made mistakes. And many of us, that's how it is with wildlife. A lot of times we try to protect an animal and we find out in retrospect, oops, nature knew best after all.
Right, and yet
but that's just common. I mean, it's not unusual. So we meaning the turtle teams had to educate, and those women who were the turtle ladies had to learn to let go. But they were such fine women. And that's who I really modeled Lovey after in the beach house. But I was able to take all those women and make it her, and in Beach House Memories, because in the early 70s there was no DNR on the beach. Funny story, I'm on the board of the aquarium, I think most of you know, and the very first gala that the aquarium had, I was the moderator for, and the very first recipients of our awards, Pat Conroy, who was on the board originally, won the Legacy Award, and Sally Murphy from DNR, who set up the Sea Turtle program in South Carolina, won the achievement. And so I had the great joy, and I love to play pranks on Pat because he's always playing pranks on everyone else. I introduced him and I gave him his award, and I said, just wait here a minute. And then I talked about Sally Murphy, and I brought Sally Murphy up and I gave her the award, and I said, Pat, I want you to meet Jane, the lady you vilified in beach music. And Pat was like, what?
Oh, no.
And Sally was in on it, and we laughed. And ever since then, they became friends too.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's a behind the scenes kind of story.
That's wonderful. Well, Mary Alice, we ask our readers, I did in the chat box, who their favorite female character is in On Ocean Boulevard. And Anissa Joy Armstrong says Kara is her favorite character.
She's
Linda,
the heart of the series.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Linda Burrell said Kara and Lovey, and Marilyn also said Lovey. So yeah, I think
those two. I mean, Lovey. I think that what's interesting is that Kara, when I started the series, was, like I said, the lone swimmer, and she was dragging her left foot. She didn't want to be there. But we have watched this woman. I tossed the book at her. And I won't, there's births and deaths. And yeah, if you read the series, I hit her pretty hard in Beach House for Rent. Yeah. And people even Andy McDowell said, why did you do that? And I said, life isn't always kind. And I wanted to open her up even more. But we've watched Kara become a strong Lovey. Lovey was great, but she didn't have that core strength that Kara does. But that wisdom, and the ghost of Lovey still hovers in the series, which I love too. And little Linnea is so much like Lovey. I see her becoming. She looks like Lovey. She has the vintage clothing of Lovey. She now lives in the beach house. That whole thing with Gordon in this book, the love stories, is parallel to Russell Bennett and Lovey. So it was so much fun to write it, and I'm going to blow everything out of the water in the next book. So buckle your seatbelts.
Oh my goodness! Well, you're already touching on so many of the questions that are so fascinating that we have for you. I did want to mention, since you brought that up, that there's a passage about Lovey in chapter 1 that Linnea talks about, and it's just so touching. That's my personal favorite. But I did want to go through Amina Rink says definitely not Pandora as favorite female.
That's funny.
Strong, Pandora, and we all know Pandora. We've all seen Pandora.
That's right.
Some can throw money at it. But that was your lesson. She had to learn you can't solve a problem by throwing money at it.
Right.
Exactly.
do we have time to do some of the questions we prepared about the book?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I say yes, so let me see.
I just want to make sure we have time for everything.
Okay.
We could just do a few of them. I don't have.
I'll just
Yeah,
have to come back, like we
Pick
said.
your
I'll just come
favorite.
back.
Yeah, you will have to come back because this is so fascinating.
Yeah.
I'll bring
So
pictures of the turtle team. We'll do a PowerPoint.
I do love the way you had the turtle information at the start of the chapter in both the reunion book and this one.
When I think it makes a difference, I do it, and I did with the Low Country series for dolphins too. I can't do it for every book, but when I can, I think the readers like it.
Absolutely. Michelle,
Okay.
do you have a question?
You were talking a lot about the family and the main characters, the mother-daughter relationship. So my question regarding the book for the readers, and I have a question for you, Mary Alice, as well. First of all, family relationships are important in this book, so I was just asking to pick two characters and share how the personalities and life history shape their relationships. And for Mary Alice Monroe, I was just asking what you're trying to illustrate with the family relationships in the book.
How they affect the storyline, or how they
how affected the storyline. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think one of the two most intense story arcs of all 6 books is, of course, Kara. And I talked about how she went from someone who didn't want to go there, who didn't want to get married, to getting married, to learning what it means to be married, to learning what it means that it's not just about you all the time, your career, to thinking of the family, to becoming eventually the matriarch. So you saw her arc, and I think her, she no longer is fighting with her brother. She wants to help him. And I think that was a major key in the relationship in Beach House Reunion. And the secret of Lovey's secret, which she had promised not to divulge in the first book, that whole thing where Palmer wants to build that house, who owns that land, I'm going to build that house, that was always that niggling division between them. And finally, in Beach House Reunion, the reunion is the truth comes out, and that changes Palmer's life and his relationship. So Palmer, in the beginning of the book, it's interesting, my mother-in-law's passing even as we speak. And when my mother passed, I was the caretaker, and I'm one of 10.
Wow.
So the girls, as always, it's usually the girls who step in to do the nursing and the caretaking. It's just what we do as women. But I remember calling my brothers and warning them, like Kara did, hey, you better get down here. You better get down here now. You'll always regret it. Oh, she's fine. She's fine. And they sent flowers. And Palmer did that.
Right.
As an author, you get to work, you get to explain things, as I say. You get to make it happen. You get to play God a little bit. So I had this happen to Palmer, and it broke him when his mother passed. Because why? I watched people who don't say goodbye, and they say, I'm full of regret. I didn't get to say goodbye. Well, that's Palmer, who's always, as his mother put it, has his hands in the cookie jar, right? His personality. He's always looking for that deal that's gonna, and we know someone like this who's always gonna get rich quick deal. So we've watched Palmer, who's also an alcoholic, from book 1, go up and down, fight with it. In Beach House for Rent, he really had in Beach House Reunion. And I loved that it's how the family interacted with him and helped him that took time and maturity. It doesn't all happen in the summer. Helping someone become a recovering alcoholic, it takes years of support. And that's when Kara stopped butting heads with him, and he stopped hiding it, to when brother and sister actually said, I have your back. But so it was so much fun, not fun, but rewarding in a series, to be able to show how people age and how these relationships are changed by the element of time. Oh,
I'm off again.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you, Mary Alice. Michelle, I wanted to share a couple of comments from the book club members. Devin Gamble says, in terms of relationships, she says she loves the ghost of Lovey and her rebirth in Linnea.
Oh, thank you. I love that too.
Which I thought was just beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. Yeah.
That was fun. I mean, that, and actually that was not planned. I think Lovey's ghost told me all about that in my sleep.
Really? That was very powerful in the book.
Yes, I like that too.
And then Pam Robertson McGahee, I should know how to say that being a Camden person. Russell and Lovey's love story was epic.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, that's my favorite love story. It's it was so powerful to write. I sobbed when I wrote those scenes, you know. And Flo, that's an interesting character arc. You saw Flo being the strong, and she was modeled after a real woman on the Turtle team. Strong, you know, short hair, you know, marches rather than walks. And she was a staunch supporter. She hated Lovey's husband, Stratton. She knew she was there. And now Flo's 80-something, and she has dementia, or Alzheimer's actually. And we're seeing her do this slide, and that was a big issue in On Ocean Boulevard, and will be addressed now with COVID coming in the next book.
And I would dare say there's some people who are probably watching right now who are struggling with that with their loved ones.
It's a very pertinent issue. My father-in-law, so I have personal experience, and it's very sad to see the slow. My brother has what we call Lewy body, and that is a disease that's only becoming more known. That's what the comedian Robin Williams died from. And he actually had suicide, but I think it's because he knew it's 8 years from diagnosis to death. And you have Parkinson's symptoms, but very fast dementia. And so my brother has that. My brother has that now, and he's in the final stages. And he's only 73. And you see someone just lose who they are. I think a lot of people are writing about it because it's happening to so many of us that we have to. There's a comfort in reading. It's a kind of, it's like women's talk. We know from research in psychiatry that what used to be disparagingly referred to as women talk is now essential to our well-being. That's what we're doing right here. But as novelists, characters are having women talk, and the reader is joining in that discussion when they read about it. So when we write about something like alcoholism, or I wrote, I think in the Low Country series, I got a lot of comments from the little boy who was Asperger's syndrome. And my husband's a child psychiatrist, so he really is able to help me with the diagnosis and the writing of all these diseases. And well, it's not even a disease. Asperger's is not a disease. It's a spectrum. But with Alzheimer's in particular, in our age group, we're seeing our parents. And if it's not Alzheimer's, it's dementia. And I think reading about it just makes you realize I'm not alone. And isn't that comforting?
It is very comforting. And while I think Michelle has another question, but I would like to read something. I hope Pat Clark doesn't mind.
I'll say that one too.
You take it. You take it.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at it too, and I thought this was a great comment.
We're both monitoring the chat.
Yeah. So, Kara gave Linnea advice I adopted this past June. My position after 31 years was eliminated, very abrupt. Then I read this book, and Kara told Linnea, control the narrative, create the narrative for your own life. So I did. At 67 years old, I announced I retired, and everyone was excited for me rather than pitying. Thanks, Mary Alice. I love that story. That was great.
Bravo, bravissimo. Control the narrative. Yes.
That's right.
That's actually a really powerful thing to do. to decide this is how I want to be perceived, not as weak, but strong.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use the right words. And by using the words, you see the power of their influence and you believe it too. Good for you. I love that. That just made my day.
Fabulous. And you can look at these comments again later too.
Good. I'll answer
After we're finished.
Oh, so Brenda, I wasn't sure if we do any more for our questions that we prepared or go now to questions from our members.
I think we've covered a lot of what we actually had wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, Cosmo's responding. They're asking their dog questions. Okay, come here, Pat.
So yes, let's take some reader questions, but I do have one while you're looking, Michelle, that I wanted to ask about. Come on, Winston.
So if you still have any other questions you want to ask, you can still ask them at this time for Mary.
Mary Alice asked a great one in advance that I wanted to get feedback on from the group, and so
yes, I was going to go with that question too.
Okay, you go with it.
About the question, and then we can go to the part that I know you're talking about.
Yes, because
it's about waiting to Linnea and the guy that you meet, Gordon. So my question was, do you think that the obstacles that Linnea and Gordon face in their relationship, could they make it work? Why or why not? And then we were talking about, because I remember your question, Mary Alice. So we were going to see what your thoughts were on this, and also regarding her ex-boyfriend, John. So then we want to go with what you were talking about in the that question. I love that.
Oh yeah, that's the one I'm wrestling with right now.
For
those of you who have not read the series, in Beach House, was it Reunion, or I think it was Reunion? Linnea graduates from college, and she's living on the beach in the beach house, and she learns to surf, and she meets Emmy's son next door, John. And anyone who's read The Beach House remembers those with those two kind of snotty teenagers who came to the 4th of July party. So I get to bring all these characters back. So he remembers her as a little kid with pigtails, and she doesn't remember him much at all. So at any rate, he teaches her to surf, and they fall in love. But he's a Peter Pan.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to commit. But, she kind of laid it out for him, and they go off to California. She follows him to California with a job and goes to live with him. That's the end. That was her big triumphantly. And then on Ocean Boulevard, 2 years later, she's coming back home, tail between her legs. She lost her job because the company failed, startup company. And John got cold feet. The whole idea of taking care of her gave him the willies. And so she knew which way the wind was blowing and went home. And she meets Gordon, who's very much the Russell Bennett of today. Elegant. Okay, you know who he is? I watched the Sean Evans from Endeavor, If you have, go look up Sean Evans, and that. Also, I have a Pinterest page.
I saw her on a Pinterest page because I was I always have to see what the characters, we envision the characters look like, and when I saw that, I heard the show. I haven't seen it, but I know some of the British shows, but I'm not familiar with that one. So that's really
he's so gorgeous, and I had so much fun writing it because I got to live vicariously through Linnea. But anyway, he goes back to England. He lives there. He's a teacher, a professor, a researcher. So now this time I'm giving a hint of what's happening. So, okay, I've never told anyone else. This is the first.
Ooh, exciting.
At the opening of the book, John's back. And Gordon is coming back. So there's going to be a triangle. And there's going to be people, I'm curious, who's Team Gordon and who's Team John? And I know.
I am curious to see what our readers think. Yeah.
Well, right now everyone's in love with Gordon, I know, but you have to kind of go back and know John. John's a good old low country boy. And there's something about a low country boy that is charming. And there's something about an erudite, elegant Brit that's charming. It's not a bad choice, but I'm going to have a battle of the battle of the guys over Linnea in the next book.
Oh, that's,
so much fun to write.
It's been fun. It's been fun to read too, because I do prefer Gordon, but I just love to see how this will all play out. You know, what each guy will do and everything. It's just going to be really interesting.
Especially during the pandemic, you know,
right.
The fun thing is she's going to say, I can't, there's no hanky panky guys. We're just going to be friends.
Love during the
pandemic. That is an interesting subplot. We have quite the battle going on in the chat. Team Gordon. Team John, Team Gordon. I think she should dump John.
Oh, that's what Sharon said. That's funny.
I know. I asked a bunch of my team members, and they were all. I think Gordon was 10-1, but I got to tell you, I'm going to make a good fight for John too. It's going to be fun.
I'm really curious how this is going to play out. Yeah.
I don't know who. I honestly don't know who's going to win yet. I usually know the ending, but I don't know yet.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's even more interesting to know that you don't know yet, because
But you know, Brenda, I always do. I always know the ending of the book. This is the first time my mom lose ground, because I think that I like both characters, and I think John had to grow up. You know, they're late bloomers in life, right? And Gordon has to make some tough decisions. So I'm going to see who wins me over.
I like
maybe that should. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe that should be one of our topic lines. You know, win Mary Alice over to Team John or Team Gordon.
That's right. What are your arguments? What does John have to do? What does Gordon have to do?
Mm-hmm. I like how Carrie said John is no Brett.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ouch, burn. Actually, Andy McDowell said nobody's Brett. Why did he was one of the few good ones. David is almost too good. It's interesting. I worried about making her new husband, David, so perfect. But then I had a guy read the book, my brand new son-in-law, and he said, you know, he's kind of controlling. And he named it. That was what was chafing. You know, when you have a strong woman like Kara, you have David for all love. He's a bit controlling with gifts. And there are guys like that.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the questions. I was curious to see what viewers thought of their relationship and how it evolved over the book. Yeah, so how did it evolve?
Over this book, she's 50-something years old, and you know the idea. If you read The Beach House, she never wanted to get married at all, and she fell in love with Brett, and it was a small justice of the peace kind of a thing. That you know, and for now she's marrying this guy who is wealthy, but not like uber wealthy, but wealthy. But he's so his way of showing love is gifts. Always the gift. And he's done that throughout the whole dating thing. And she's always a little nervous. You know, he came back instead of a cookie tin from London, which I would give someone, or in those little tins of tea, he gives her a Burberry bag. And because he knew her purse was broken. And she's like, you can't just buy me this thousands of dollars bag. He goes, why not? And it's that whole mental thing of some guys just show their love with things. And so for her, that's a wedding is for him, not for her. Mm-hmm. And she didn't want the big wedding. And that's why it was interesting to write it, because usually it's the other way around. Also in this book, when the wedding was canceled, I didn't, spoiler.
We're Sorry in spoiler time.
Okay, yeah. But honestly, it doesn't ruin the book. You'll know why. Why is what is more interesting. But when I wrote the book, I didn't know that COVID was going to be hitting. And in my personal life, you know, my daughter, we planned a big wedding for her. Oh, wow. Canceled. You know, didn't happen. In fact, I was on Friends and Fiction when I had to cut out because we were at this place where she was going to get signed the papers. That was what we did. We had champagne and signed the papers. And then my niece, I think I told people this, but my niece came to take care of my dogs when I was in South America. And I came back when COVID hit. In fact, I'm pretty sure I had it. There was no test, but I had all the symptoms, and it wasn't a virus. I had blood tests. We knew it was, it wasn't the flu. We knew I had a virus. At any rate, she couldn't go back to California. She didn't have a job. She was virtually homeless. She had no job because she was in the service industry. So she came to live with me. And I think that's what happened with Linnea.
Oh, yeah.
So I think a lot of us have lived through helping each other out during this tough time. And that's what families do.
Oh, Brenda, I'm sorry, you're on mute again.
I'm so sorry.
Both
It's the
of us
dogs
were
tonight.
technical
They have never been this much trouble. I tried to
I was looking down at the screen before and it was talking, so people couldn't read what I was saying. It was like, yeah.
Oh, that's okay. So, Michelle, is it okay for me to interject a question in here from
Sure. Yeah, you want to go
a reader? Okay.
Yes, please.
Debbie Taylor would like to know which book in the Beach House series is your favorite.
Oh,
and we could ask that of our readers too, although.
Yeah, I honestly think they're so different. You think being a series, that so many different things happened in each book. For example, I love with the first Beach House was where everything happened. It was a birth, everything. I changed the way I wrote books. So, but it was very, oh my God, exhausting to write. I think Beach House Memories, that love story, was the most emotional one of the books. And On Ocean Boulevard was the most satisfying because I saw Kara come full circle. I almost wondered, is it too happy? Am I giving her too much? Because I just thought I put her through hell. And at the end of the series, and you get to play God, and she's always come through for her family. She's always made the right decision. And I decided she deserves it. If anybody deserves it, this character did.
Absolutely. And we just had a reader comment to Doris Yates Biddick says, I cried when Brett passed. I loved him. So
that's okay. That's really why. That's what. Yeah. So did Andy McDowell. That's what I was trying not to say exactly.
But yeah.
Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
I did too. It was very hard. I got a lot of letters from people asking, and I said, that's why I wrote Beach House Reunion soon after, because sometimes I couldn't make you wait. That would not have been fair. So I put you all through the ringer, and then I gave you Beach House Reunion. And so I think it's been, her life has changed, and you can't say better. Isn't that life? You can't really say better, but it's changed and it's good. Mm-hmm. She has a good life. And anyone who's lost a spouse, I think, and found love again would say the same thing. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry it happened, but I am okay.
Well, and I think, and she's come to terms, and that was particularly enjoyable for me. Part of the book is that she is in that time of her life and has found, happiness.
Yes, and she never expected it. It came as a surprise. And then hope. I love bringing hope into the child.
Too. Yeah, and the way it happens as well.
And if you've read, in Beach House, which was swimming lessons, and that for sure is when you realize that, how hard it is to have a child when you're in your 40s. Mm-hmm. You don't always get one.
That's right.
And was that Beach House for Rent when they were having it? And that one too. Just the realization of her life, that was not going to be a choice for her. And then Esperanza, hope.
Yeah, came into her life, yeah. Oh, here's another interesting question from Michelle, and we'll see if I'm pronouncing the name right, Habrick. Have you ever considered including an artistic map of the islands?
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Places. And she said you would,
yes.
would add to the reading experience.
100%. Thank you so much, actually, for reminding me of that. I'm always rushing so hard to get the book done on time that, this book a year is hard. This year I wrote 3. I mean, I'm finishing up the novel. It would have been done, except that I wrote a short story that's coming out with called Beach Reunion, and then my middle grade book is coming out. So I'm going to do the math. I'm going to do it.
I can understand what you're saying. You're on your plate.
I'm going to write myself a note. Math. Absolutely must do it.
Oh, that's funny. We'll remind you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Excellent suggestion.
That's great.
Because they're all real places.
Yeah. Let me see where they
and
are.
I also, I have the characters, like in this last book on Ocean Boulevard, bringing the grannies back. Oh my God, I had so much fun in the Low Country series with the grandmothers, because you had Mama and then Granny James came, and we called it the Battle of the Grandmas. It was so much fun to write, especially there's a scene and they like to drink and play cards. So I brought that in. That's in the other series, and I brought it into this. So in fact, everybody would know each other. Isle of Palms and Sullivan's Island is just virtually the same place in terms of they're divided by a tiny little inlet. And my daughter lives on Sullivan's and I live on Isle of Palms, and it's it's just this, you would know each other. And if you surf, you know each other. If you've lived there for a long time, you know each other. And so I think people who've loved the Beach House series should read the Low Country series, because you're going to see all your old friends.
I saw the tie-in because I read the first book, Summer Girls, and Grandmother Marietta.
Mama, Marietta. I think that's my favorite name is Marietta. Marietta Muir. Well, I wish that was my name.
Yes, but you have such a great acronym.
I do, ma'am. Funny story.
I'm also ma'am too, actually. But
You are?
Michelle, Amy, Marcus. So yeah.
Oh, hey, ma'am. Well, I wanted my grandchildren to call me ma'am. I thought that was, everyone would think I had polite grandchildren, but somehow it morphed into with a B-O, Mambo. Now I'm Mambo.
Mambo.
And I was, but I'm thinking when they get older, they might change it to ma'am. It really is a great initial.
Yeah. Good company. I like the comment from Stephanie Brown. I thought this was sweet. Grannies are great and yes, quite colorful. I miss mine every day. The beach house helped heal my heart with Lovey.
Oh,
thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah,
that means a lot. That means a lot. I like to think that someday Kara's going to be a grandmother. Well, she sort of is, because she married David.
That's
David's
true.
a grandfather of Rory. So she is. I think it was funny when she didn't want to be called grandma. She's like 56. She's like, I don't know about that.
right.
Which no one feels that way, do they?
So that'll be, actually I have to play with that for the future books.
Yeah.
But I have to leave the beach house eventually. I'm writing one now, and I'm going to leave it behind for a few years because I put aside other big books I really want to write. There's so many stories I want to write.
Yes,
and I don't want
tell.
Yeah. Well, you're going to be surprised. I mean, it's not for shortage of ideas that I come back to the beach house. It's because I really do respect my readers when they, that this is a continuing story. And I think I'm leaving them in a good place after this one that I'm writing now, where I can go away for a while and come back. But I'm never going to say it's over. I don't think that's fair. There's too many people who love the book and the series. And there's always talk about a TV series, we're always in negotiation. So we'll see what materializes. And it would be nice to see it continue. I mean, honestly, I only wrote 6. I'm on number 7. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Jan Carone wrote 15. I have a way to go to catch up.
That's right. If you get stuck at home for much longer, you might do it a little bit.
Oh, right.
Right.
I couldn't go. I was supposed to write a book to go up to the Gatlinburg area and write about fireflies. And as it turns out, I couldn't do the research last spring. And so I was disheartened, and I just didn't want to write it without my hands-on experience. That's my reader promise, that I know what I'm doing out there, that my experiences will be real and authentic. So I was wondering, and then it occurred to me how powerful the transitions we were going through with this pandemic in families. And back then people were saying, oh, no one wants to read about the pandemic. And now people are coming a little bit on the other side of it, and they're looking back in hindsight, and they're saying, there's some really good lessons learned. Slowing down, fathers being home. There's been hardship, but also good things. And I think the question that I'm going to grapple with for everyone in the next book is, what do we want to keep from the pandemic?
Oh, that's a good point.
What do we want to keep? And that's what I do. I look at families, and it's the parallel with nature. Right now we're entering hurricane season. We're at the peak.
Right.
And I always go back to the cycle of life. And again, with the sea turtles, you see them. Like I say, after this is over, I'm changing my clothes and going out to the beach because we have a nest hatching tonight.
Oh, yes, we have to. You wanted to tell us about that.
Oh, I will. But
yes,
that cycle always brings me back to, sometimes a hurricane comes, destroys everything, but you're back. So this is just a hurricane that we're living through right now, and we'll be back. Okay, I am going back to the nest. We have only a few nests left. We're in September. And we're doing what we call inventories when we open up the nest and we see what's going on. It's smaller numbers, but there's still one nest has to emerge. So I've been there for the last 2 nights. And we've had predation for the first time on our island with coyote. And some areas it's not unusual to have coyotes. It's a new big year for us with coyotes. I'll put it in the book, of course, because it's what's going on in the beach. But we have this netting. It's like a wiring over the nest. And the hatchlings will come out and have to climb out over the wire. So we want to be sure that it's all good. Because if we're not there, they have to be able to get out as nature intended. So it's like we were talking about earlier. Sometimes we human beings try to assist nature, all species, but we find that, nature knew best after all. For example, there was a while in the 80s when a lot of the hatchlings, the nests were moved from the beach into shaded areas to be monitored. And then we found out, the heat of the sand determines sex of the turtle. So we probably inadvertently produced a lot of males. And so we try now, what we do now is leave them in situ. We don't want to move them unless we absolutely have to. And now we're finding out that with increased heat from climate change, that we are getting more females. So it's a very delicate balance to mess around, but man is what's goofing up climate. So we sort of have to look at that and say, how can we make it better for the turtles? So I don't have the answers, but what I do is observe. And I share my observations with my readers.
That's just so fabulous. Well, we definitely appreciate all of your work and have educated us all so much about.
So much, definitely.
But I hope you love I'm actually really pleased too when I hear the people talk about the characters and how they love Lovey and they thank her. To me, once I had the animals, the science down, it's all about the people. Like right now, I'm in the heart of Linnea and Kara and Pandora. She's coming back. Everybody, buckle your seatbelts.
All right, yeah, Pandora. Well, we have actually.
She wears.
Well, she did have some redeeming qualities. She did help.
That was her story arc. Yes, that was her character arc. She finally figured out that when she picked up the trash and put it in the bag, that was a triumph. And so I'll give her another chance in this book.
That's right. So
Otherwise, I wouldn't give her a
Start to
chance.
come around.
So she can learn and grow. Well, I cannot believe it, but it's already been an hour for
That
our
was
chat.
fun. That was really fun.
Great. Oh my gosh.
It's been such a pleasure to talk to you about On Ocean Boulevard. And
I learned so much and enjoy hearing your stories and more about the books and everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we also want to thank you for creating Friends in Fiction and helping us through the pandemic life, because it's made it a whole lot,
Thank you.
you know, more pleasurable and livable.
I can't imagine life without it now.
I know, it's a routine. So we also want to thank our book club members who are viewing live and who are going to watch later, because it is recorded and there are lots of people who will want to finish the book and then read later. Our next, another appearance of your pup. Yay.
Cosmo, he's begging to come up. Yes, he's been down there the whole time.
People have been demanding to see more of the dog.
Yeah.
So remember,
So cute.
our next book club discussion is Becoming Mrs. Lewis with Patty Callahan Henry at 7 o'clock on October 19th. And in November, we'll discuss Feels Like Falling with Christy Woodson Harvey. If you haven't picked up any of these books yet, this week's indie bookstore is, appropriately enough, Blue Bicycle near Mary Alice. And the coupon code is FRIENDS in all caps. So we'll post the link and the coupon code on the book page. And we want to tell everyone to keep reading, and thanks to Friends in Fiction for making it all more bearable.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a
thing. I'm sorry.
No, I just was saying thank you. What were you going to say, Michelle?
I was just saying it's the best thing that came out of the pandemic. I'm always saying that.
Yes, absolutely.
It is. It is the best thing that's come out for us too. And just a little note that I'll mention it on Wednesday, but for everyone who, Signy's a friend of mine, Signy Pike, and she lives on Sullivan's Island. And she is giving, so I'm not wearing it, but there's a beautiful feather necklace on a cord. It's gorgeous, that she had made for her series for the Lost Queen and now the Forgotten Kingdom. And for everybody who buys a book with the discount through the bookstore, which Blue Bicycle, I'm going to tell you a story about them on Wednesday. They deserve our help. But someone's going to get that necklace. So she wants to say thank you, and that'll be
fantastic. Thank you, Mary Alice.
So
and we'll close with that. For what questions we didn't get to, we'll try and go through and read them. And hopefully, Mary Alice, if you have some time, you can go back in and answer some of the questions we didn't get to.
I will.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to it. I'll answer everything. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Have a fabulous night.
Have a great night. Thanks again.
I'll let you know if a nest hatch on Wednesday.
Yes.
Yes, please do. Thank you.
That.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.